So this is where it leads into the whole Kenny Steele situation, because I want to try to keep this podcast as less political as possible, but Stephen Ross, he attended a Donald Trump event, and Kenny Stills is very anti-Trump. So he went on record, because Stephen Ross has been very, very supportive of the black community on black crime. And Stephen Ross attended this Donald Trump event where Kenny Stills went out on tape in front of the media and said that you can't play both sides. So I honestly, I don't know how that one's gonna end up panning out, because of the fact that since Kenny Stills I wouldn't say got into it, he voiced his opinion, but would Stephen Ross actually try to get rid of him? Which I really find that hard to believe, because that would be just too much. You would know the reason why he was getting traded. There's no easier way for a cover up with that. Like you traded him because you felt like he went against what you did, and that's not going to be stood for. And it basically makes you look like a racist. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's gonna be interesting how that whole Kenny Stills and Stephen Ross situation boils over.
Well, my opinion on the matter is, I feel like I don't care if we say stuff like, well, we need to separate athletes from sports, from politics and all that stuff. I feel like no matter a person's occupation and profession, their First Amendment right should always be fair and free to them, and they should be able to give it at any given time without being criticized just because of their title and where they at. But Kenny Stills, respect his opinion, what he's about. He's always been a hustler. He's a dog, and he goes after it. I don't know about the owner of the Miami Dolphins. I know that I don't hear a lot of things that he does locally. At least I don't hear about it, and I've been here for all my life. But none of the owners of these teams seem like they really care like that, in my opinion. But just like he's entitled to pick choose his opinion, and voice his opinion, Stephen Ross is allowed to hang out with Donald Trump if he wants to. I don't know if that's considered playing both sides. You really don't know what it's about. It could have been a business decision. It could have been whatever. He probably did it because it was better for himself. Who knows? But it feels good to finally be able to talk about football again. Like last year, being able to watch football without having to deal with the whole kneeling and the NFL did a great job with keeping that stuff away from the sport last year. Though players opinionated, and they still gave their opinions, and they still, a lot of players still were kneeling and all that stuff. You didn't hear about it. But I feel like when it comes down to and stuff like that, I feel like they should be allowed to speak and voice their opinions, because when you get off the field, you're no longer an NFL player. You're still an NFL player, but you're not in the game. You're back to being
you're citizen still
as a person. Yeah, So I don't feel like they should just shut up and dribble. Quote it. You got guys that like LeBron James who are pioneers for politics. They go out and they make it known, and they let people know how they feel about certain situations. And you thank guys like LeBron James, because LeBron has made it, comfortable for players to speak out, because he's comfortable with speaking out. Even with the most recent situation with the NCAA, and them, doing what they got to do to prevent one of his best friends from being the top dog when it came down to recruiting. LeBron said that's not gonna stop us. That's not gonna stop us. We gonna find a way to still get this money. and we're gonna find a way to get these players paid. And you know, without having to go through you guys. And that's exactly what ended up happening. One of those, I can't remember the name of the actual player, but he actually signed on with LeBron's brand,
Clutch Sports,
and Clutch Sports, yeah, with Clutch Sports, and end up they paid him, I think, like $1 million to go play overseas. Which, when you're 17, 18 years old, you're not going to turn down $2 million. Like, you're
absolutely not.
You're giving me $2 million. All right, you're giving me $2 million to go overseas and ball on some guys that don't know pretty much nothing about the sport. With respect to those guys overseas, but I'm saying, like,
you give me 500,000, I'm going.
Right, and you pretty much solidified, in the league, and this kid still ends up getting drafted in the NBA. NCAA saw that. They're like, oh no. Oh no, we're not going to have our money not being our money. Like, that's not happening, and that's why this is a big deal. But I'm sure LeBron and his team, they're gonna figure something out. They're gonna figure it out. There's very smart people. It's very smart people. But to Kenny Stills, keep doing what you're doing, man. Don't let nobody shut you up. I respect people who voice their opinion because I'm always voicing mine. So keep doing your thing, man. Just be careful what you say, though, because that guy writes your check. So
you don't want to end up being like the next Colin Kaepernick or Eric Reed.
Right.
That's one thing I will say that is different from the NBA and the NFL is because the NBA is driven by the players, and the NFL is driven by the owners and the commissioner.
Right. And the NBA has always been able to. They've always been very, and that comes down to the commissioners too, because Adam Silver has been very open with and transparent with the players. Listen, this is your league, guys. Like, you guys are the main attraction. You guys sell the tickets, and you guys want to talk about it? Great, talk. You don't see Adam Silver getting in the mix of guys jumping in. Oh, you shouldn't say that. He don't get into that. He lets the guys. He treats them like men, whereas the NFL treats these guys, these adult men, like kids. Like, they're cradling them. Like, it's not fair. Remember the whole Trayvon Martin thing. It's a sensitive topic as that is, especially in the African American community. The whole Trayvon Martin thing, when Trayvon Martin was murdered, like I said, murdered.
They wore those T-shirts out to the warm up.
They wore the hoodies. Yeah, yep. The hoodies. It was Eric Gardner who was choked out by the police officer when he said, "I can't breathe." The very next day or something like that, when
they made the such hoodies with I can't breathe on it.
Say I can't breathe. So you don't see that in the NFL. In the NFL, if you were to decide to do that, they'll fine you for it. Whereas in the NBA, they're like, all right, we understand. We understand that you guys are upset. We understand that, and we want you guys to voice your opinion. And that's why the NFL is a better product, in my opinion. The NFL is going to stand out, but the NBA is a better product in terms of allowing those players to be themselves. But
right, I agree with you. The NBA allows their players to be a little bit more authentic. Like, I'm just thinking about that whole Donald Sterling situation. You know how fast they got him up out of office, man.
Right.
Like, if it was the NFL, it would have took they would have had to appeal it a year later. Then probably would have went to trial, and then it would have got probably promoted up to a Supreme Court type of case.
Yeah, like just annoying, man. Just